Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to DiscussionVerse. In today's video, I'm going over the most anticipated horror films coming in 2026. And if you're a horror fan, these upcoming entries are quietly stacked in a way I don't think enough people are talking about just yet. And we're not just getting one type of horror either, as we're getting sequels that are actually justifying their existence, the return of parody horror done the right way, bold new filmmakers stepping into the spotlight, and one of the most ambitious internet to cinema adaptations ever attempted. Before I fully dive into this is your friendly reminder to smash that like button and also subscribe to the channel, as I'm on the journey to 1,000 subscribers. Your help really does make that difference. With that in mind, let's get right into it. So first up, we have Ready or Not 2 Here I Come, and I gotta say, I recently had the chance to catch this in theaters and it genuinely exceeded expectations. Because let's be honest, Ready or Not already had a near perfect ending. It was such a fun thrill ride with a chaotic tension littered throughout the movie, while it had its story wrapped up so cleanly that a sequel did not feel necessary at all. And that's not meant in a bad way whatsoever, that's just how good Ready or Not 2 stands on its own. So walking into the sequel, the big question was simple as what story was left to be told. While they figured it out and cracked the code as Samara Weaving returns as Grace, and at this point I honestly feel comfortable calling her the modern Scream Queen and currently the definitive final girl of horror films. But what really shakes things up is the introduction of Katherine Newton as Grace's younger sister, a relationship defined by tension and emotional distance. That strained dynamic adds a surprisingly grounded emotional core underneath all the chaos, giving the story stakes beyond simple survival. And then the film just keeps stacking wild additions to the cast, as we have Sarah Michelle Gellar and Sean Hatosy appearing as Ursula and Titus Danforth, a deeply unsettling twin brother and sister duo who immediately feel right at home in this twisted world of elite ritualistic horror. And yes, that's Sarah Michelle Gellar stepping back into the horror energy again, and it works beautifully. David Cronenberg also shows up as their father, which feels like a perfect meta layer considering his legacy within horror filmmaking on his own. Plus, we also have Elijah Wood as the lawyer, who is a mysterious figure representing the devil-like entity Labal, and he absolutely relishes every second of the role. He plays the character with this calm, almost amused menace that makes every scene feel unpredictable, and sometimes like he is actually rooting for the protagonist with grace and faith. And what impressed me the most is that the movie actually sticks the landing. It ends in a way that feels thoughtful, satisfying, and neatly wrapped up, while still leaving just enough thematic space that I wouldn't be surprised if this franchise still has legs, because honestly, it's that good. This sequel understands what made the first film work, with crazy tension, unpredictability, and the twisted sense of humor, while evolving the concept instead of repeating it. And honestly, that's the best compliment that you can give a sequel nobody was expecting. And next up, we are seeing the return of Scary Movie 6. And this is huge because the Wayans brothers are back alongside much of the original cast. We're talking Anna Faris returning as Cindy, Regina Hall back as Brenda, Marlon Wayans as Shorty, Sean Wayans as Ray, David Sheridan also returning as Doofy, along with Cherry O'Terry as Gail, and Chris Elliott returning as Hanson, the butler from Scary Movie 2. We've also seen in the trailer that John Abrahams is back as Bobby from Scary Movie, and reportedly Anthony Anderson is joining the chaos alongside new cast members. This honestly feels like a return to form after Scary Movie 4 and especially 5, which lacked the original creative DNA that made the franchise work. And timing wise, it could not be better. As for comedy films, especially parody films, have almost disappeared from theaters. The genre that once dominated pop culture basically vanished. But horror right now is everywhere, which gives this sequel endless material to work with, and recent parody films have proven to still work with The Naked Gun. And the expected parody targets include Sinners, Longlegs, Megan, Terrifier, the recent Scream films, Wednesday, Halloween, and likely dozens more surprise riffs. If it captures even half the chaotic energy of the originals, this could genuinely revive an entire subgenre of comedy and horror that's been missing for over a decade. And I honestly could not be more excited, as this movie is right around the corner and is dropping on June 5th, 2026. From there, we have to shift gears and go into something much smaller but potentially massive creatively, as we have the upcoming movie Obsession coming out, directed and written by Curry Barker. The premise alone already screams psychological nightmare, as it focuses on a music store employee who acquires a supernatural object slash toy that grants him a wish, and he uses it to make his childhood friend fall in love with him, and almost immediately reality reality begins to unravel. The teasers alone are masterfully done and give away just enough while not giving the full plot. And the early reactions for this movie are extremely strong. The film premiered to impressive early reviews from critics, with momentum continuing to build ahead of its wider release on May 15, 2026, while the production is backed by Blumhouse. The mystery alone puts Obsession high on my most anticipated list. We then continue with new voices in the horror genre, as next up is Passenger, which is an upcoming horror film directed by Andre Uverdahl, the filmmaker behind The Autopsy of Jane Doe and Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. A teaser trailer played in front of the Ready or Not 2 viewing that I went to go see recently, and just off of that glimpse, expectations are immediately high, as I was instantly hooked. We watched as two friends were driving on a road, and one steps out briefly after begging him to stop so he can relieve himself, only to return to a completely ransacked car with doors open and the horn blaring. We watch as he gets into the car and looks around before his friend's body suddenly crashes through the windshield from above. He panics and then drives off suddenly and begins to go down an endless loop of roads on the same path again and again. With each pass, we see someone on the side of the road in the same exact spot, until eventually the demonic presence appears inside the vehicle itself next to the driver. Then it ends and cuts to black. Currently, we have no official trailer out online, but we do know some details, as the story is said to follow a young couple weeks into their van life journey who witness a horrific accident where the driver dies. Soon after, they find themselves hunted by something demonic and something that cannot be outrun, and seemingly follows them wherever they go. It feels like cosmic horror meets road thriller. I'm already sold just based off of this quick teaser that we got. Passenger is expected to come out May 22nd, 2026, and it might end up being a sleeper horror hit of the year. Last but not least, we have the highly anticipated Backrooms movie coming from A24 and directed by Kane Parsons, the original creator behind the viral Backrooms series on YouTube, making him one of A24's youngest directors ever. And I did make a full video covering this. With the film, we are following a therapist that's investigating the disappearance of her patient who had become obsessed with a strange dimension made of endless, unsettling rooms that feel wrong. Through the teaser's narration, we hear as the patient describes finding something, specifically a place that he says is massive and endless with all these rooms, and that the place builds itself, but that it remembers them, but the more times it remembers something, the less it does. This eerily describes the weirdness and otherworldliness that they experience when you are in the backrooms. And the cast itself is pretty incredible, as we have Chiwetel Ejiofor and Renate Rivenzi both leading this film, and it's assumed that Chiwetel is playing the patient while Renate is playing his therapist, and as he goes missing, she ends up going after him to make sure he is found and safe, but ends up in the otherworldly dimensions that is the backrooms. Joining the cast is Mark Duplass, Yvonne Jogia, Finn Bennett, and Lukita Maxwell, all of whom are familiar faces that you would recognize upon seeing them. I am genuinely excited for this film and have been a big fan of the Backrooms concept itself for a while now, so I'm very excited to see as the film captures the uncanny dread that made the original videos and shorts work so well, and the film could easily define how internet-born horror can transition into the mainstream cinema and work beautifully, and cannot wait to see the expansion of the Backrooms universe with the theatrical release expected. And this is coming out on May 29th, 2026. Looking at all of this together, 2026 is stacked with highly anticipated horror movies right around the corner. It's not just a good year for the horror genre, but it's also easily one of the most exciting years we've seen in a long time for the horror genre. And if these films deliver even half of what they're promising, us horror fans are about to eat very, very well this year. And that being said, this does wrap up the video, and before I go, this is a final friendly reminder to smash that like button if you enjoyed the breakdown. Then from there, you're going to want to hit that subscribe button and help me push DiscussionVerse towards that next milestone. Until the next video, I will catch you guys later. Peace!